students in universities as well. Yesterday on The Star, it did capture a particular report that says more than half of university students are hooked on multiple substances and drugs. This is certainly pointing to quite a huge crisis that is deepening in the country's institutions of higher learning as well. And it says at least 58% of the students in the current study self-reported a lifetime history of drug use, with 51% testing positive for drug use in saliva tests. It was a cross-sectional study conducted in 3 campuses of the Technical University of Mombasa and Kwale and Lamu. That was one report. Then there was also another report that was included in this story. It was done on The Star. Also from the National Authority for Campaign and Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse last year, as well as another report. I'll be getting to that in a moment. So this shows that, you know, the growing use of drugs and substance really is happening, and in particular at universities within Nairobi as well as in Eldoret, found up to 40% of students abuse drugs and substances. I was trying to get another one. It says according to that NACADA report last year, by the way, it reported nearly 4 in every 10 undergraduate students in Kenya abuse drugs and other substances as well. So this is quite a growing concern, especially for the young people within our universities. Mushemi, when you look at this data, it is quite telling of a situation that is growing much worse. And do you think then we are shedding more light on this? Do you think we're in a crisis? Should we be talking about this much more? Do you think much needs to be done? Where do you think we lie at this point?
Well, Zainab, I think it's one thing to be in a crisis and another to be in a growing crisis. As the numbers state, in 2020, the statistics were at 25.5% of university students, the prevalence of drug and substance abuse in institutions of higher learning. As of 2021, the numbers were at 48.6%. And now we're in 2023, and the numbers are at 50.
What do you think is contributing to this growing number of prevalence of drug and substance abuse?
Well, I would like to go contrary to my co-panelists to blame the government, because I think this is a menace that calls for a multi-sectoral approach to this. As KUSO, we continue to campaign for different agencies in this particular industry to play their role in combating this menace. It can not only be government, we also need to institutionalize the advocacy campaigns and mitigation measures towards convincing students that drugs are not the way to go, and indeed cutting down the pressure of the demand. If the demand falls, that is basic economics, if the demand falls, the supply falls. But students continue, and in general, young people, continue to depend on drugs because there is so much that is bothering their minds. And I blame the generation that went before us. Our parents maybe did not see the menace coming, because if the numbers are rising, then the question has to be, we are still in the care of our parents still provide for us. Then indeed I am convinced as an individual that maybe there is somewhere that we haven't really identified where is the challenge. And I'm convinced as well that counseling and the solutions that we have taken before, these are not the absolute solutions to the menace. We need to come up with better creative means, more informed and more responsive approaches to solving the menace. It cannot only be counseling. What if we mentioned the reported cases in that report? We as Kenyans, we do know that most of us are not reported. Those of institutions of higher learning, the students in universities and colleges across the country, most of them don't, of course, take up surveys that indeed have used this and this drug.
Right.
So the unreported cases are more. So the menace has to be bigger.
Right.
I'm convinced it's into the 60s and the 70%. But institutions, and for example, I'll give you the example of University of Nairobi, where I'm a student. University of Nairobi has partnered with UNESCO to do an O3+ campaign, Our Rights, Our Lives, Our Future campaign. And part of the pillars of this campaign, of this project in particular, is an approach and an advocacy against alcohol, drugs, and substance abuse. And today, we have launched a song. It's called Beshte Yangu. It was launched last month by King Kaka and a couple of University of Nairobi students who went on a spree to tell their story. That I had a friend, I had a friend who has used. This was the implication that it had on their life. We must again come back to the drawing board. Where are we missing the game? Where does the rubber meet the road. Pixley Kaisa Kaseme, the South African lawyer, once said that we must regenerate Africa. And indeed, we will regenerate Africa. But at the devolution conference, when the Council of Governors chair was giving their milestones in the last 10 years, I didn't hear them mentioning combating drug and substance abuse as far as young people are concerned.
Right.
Yet, we are the Pixley Kaisa Kasemes of tomorrow. We are the Thomas Sankaras of tomorrow. Tomorrow, I might be president. Tomorrow, I might be a governor, or I might be CBK governor somewhere.
Right.
If I am not prepared for that, if even our county governments are not seeing how much of a danger it is, and I mentioned particularly the counties of Kisumu, Mombasa, Nairobi, and Kiambu. These counties are in so much danger that we haven't already realized.
So you feel this issue is not being given the impetus, the importance that it should be by our leaders?
Not only our leaders now,
Right,
but
right.
everybody across the board, the society itself, because the Kwamade case,
Right.
you saw some comments saying that you can arrest Made, but you can't arrest Kwamade. It's an institution, it's a firm, and the society
It's
is
not
firmly
an
aware.
individual, right?
Yeah, the society and the community surrounding that area
Right.
is firmly
It's an
aware that
ecosystem that
this
works.
this business is being run here, but nobody is rising up to say this is wrong. We should mitigate this. We should do this and this against it. And 2 minds join, 3 minds join, and I believe that in the long run, if we approach common approaches, common solutions, collective solutions to such challenges, we are going to solve a huge crisis that might be coming in the future.
Right, and we're going to come back to the issue of solutions on the table in a moment. But Esther, Mushemi is talked about, as long as the demand is there, the supply will continue to be there and it will continue to grow. But from where you sit, what do you think is driving the demand, especially among those people, the young people who are in universities? What is that, the pain point? What is that key area? Is it the fact that they're facing trouble in school? Is it mental health issues? Is it peer pressure? What is driving this demand?
Najma, let me start by saying availability. It's very common now to find that drugs and alcohol are very available to our university students and even to our high school going students. And these things are everywhere. The government has been trying to put some control on where people can open up pubs. And these things, we've seen a campaign where people are saying that they don't want pubs in their residential areas. But I also think it's a high time that also the government thought of abolishing, pubs and other such kind of things near our learning institutions. So I'd say availability, it is very available. Number two, when the kids are going to the universities, this is the age where they start experimenting. They have been in high school in a very controlled environment, and now they have all these freedoms. And unfortunately, peer pressure and all these things come to them, and they may not be able to say no, And so when they go to the universities, it's very important that education and awareness programs are started from the first trimester. I know in the past that the universities have been teaching people, the core first subjects, communication skills, HIV and AIDS, but I think it's a high time that the universities also inculcated a module to do with drugs and substance abuse at the onset when they go to the universities, and mental health, so that we do more of preventative measures actually from high school and the primary school. We do a lot of prevention and education so that by the time our children are going to the universities, they are very aware of the dangers of alcohol and drug abuse. Their mind is still developing. I said that a human mind will develop when you're about 24. And so when you start using drugs early, it is very possible that you'll be addicted to them at a very early age. There's not a lot of control mechanism in the school where children are monitored on where they are going, when they are going out, because most of them are staying in hostels or staying with relatives in the metropolitan areas. So the issue of availability, wanting to experiment, peer pressure is very rife with our children, and really we need to look at it, come up with policies and things like that that can help them.
And there's this sort of sense of, freedom that you get when you join, especially universities. And so with that then comes the responsibility of, that freedom. How do you, work around it? So then you find yourself probably perhaps heading in the wrong direction.
Exactly, freedom. And also the people who sell those drugs want to get customers, if I may say that. So they start enticing them from a very early age. You will also see that in the media, both mainstream media and the social media, use of drugs and alcohol is very glorified. And our children, some of their peer, of their mentors, when you look at the movies and the songs that they listen to, there's a lot of, glorifying of use alcohol, use of drugs. And so, they can't put a picture that is not cool not to use drugs and alcohol, because that is what looks cool into them. And so the universities and other institutions of higher learning need really to look for other alternative things that kids can do. I think sports has been neglected as an alternative way of spending time, because they are coming from a place where they're in class 8 to 5, and maybe you're just having one lesson per day. You have another whole day not being very occupied. So those are some of the things that we really need to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
And Isaac, where do you think, what is fueling this crisis in universities specifically? Well, we've talked about the fact that, yes, there's that renewed freedom, there's the peer pressure, there's the availability of these drugs that are already there. But still, what do you think could also be fueling it as well?
I want first to agree with Esther, what she has said, that the proximity on the availability of the drugs.
Right.
Then the drugs are not only available, but they are also cheap. Then the laxity
Are
of...
they cheap, really?
Yes, some of these drugs are very cheap. Yeah, so then the biggest problem we have is the laxity by the administration. You find that in every learning institutions, you cannot lack at least several joints where comrades can go and purchase cheap drugs. And the crisis on drug abuse is not only in the universities, but also even in our communities.
But let me ask you this. You say there is laxity in terms of the authority, right?
Yeah.
In terms of that. But I'm imagining, when you say comrade, when comrade decides we are going to find some cracks and find a way to, maneuver our way around authorities' eyes, then perhaps that won't be really a solution, would it be?
If the authorities can have at least a serious process of getting a license for you to be able to have a bar or wines and spirits somewhere, it can be good. But you find that almost in several universities and TVETs and colleges, there are several wines and spirits almost everywhere, and they are not just selling the wines and spirits. You will find it's a wine and spirit, but inside, if you come and they know their customers, you will find even Bang there, you will find a Miraa there. So that is why I'm saying the laxity of the government in regulations of these joints. You have asked about what is fueling these high level of students engaging into drugs, or the youth engaging into drugs. I want to say that one, the anxiety of joining the university, that freedom. Everyone is now saying that I was in high school whereby we were working at 4:30, we are going to sleep at 10 p.m. Now you are hostels, you will decide when to wake up.
No one is on your neck.
Yeah, when you
attend classes.
Yeah, you are the one to decide whether to go to class or not to go. And the other biggest challenge is the peer pressure. You want to do what your fellow students are doing. So I think this is a whole problem whereby when I was a student leader, for instance, I used to do so much on sensitization about the drug abuse. I used even to invite NACADA to the university to talk to the students.
Did it have any impact?
I don't think it had a serious impact.
That's quite unfortunate.
I even don't know the problem. These institutions are well funded by the government. But when you lack the youths themselves talking about the drug abuse in the forefront, if the youths are not in the table concerning the drug abuse problem, then the youths are in the menu. That means if we are not the one who are talking about the drug abuse, then the people who are talking about drug abuse, they are not doing it seriously as it deserves to be done. So I think we should come up as a country, as youths, as a community, actually everyone. And what I can advise all the parents and guardians back at home is that before your student is joining to any university, kindly have a serious parental guidance. Talk to him or her that now you are going, because most of these students are almost a good percentage of students are above 18 years. Just a very small percentage are between 16, 17 years. So talk to your students before they join to the university.
And I think you bring in a good point, and we'll have a conversation around that in terms of guidance as well. Do you think perhaps our guardians, our parents have left that responsibility to teachers and the society to teach ourselves? But Joel, as you come in, still looking at that particular report, the most abused drugs include alcohol at 62%, marijuana at 42%, shisha 42%, cigarette at 34%. You also have miraa at 31%. And interestingly, the other drugs also being abused are diazepam, heroin, and rifonol. The source of this report is from the polydrug use among students in public universities in low and middle income countries. And from one of the opinion op-ed that you actually had yesterday, the opinion editorial yesterday, you talked about most drug and substance abuse in universities begin in primary and secondary school, and that the problem only grows as students grow older.
Yeah, that is true, that the problem begins at the primary school level. Then it continues to grow with time until these fellows reach university, when the number gets larger. And when they get into these universities, and not just universities, we've even been to some of these other colleges, TTCs and KMTCs, where we have come up with the peer counseling groups, and the problem is the same. So these people, when they are in school, in many cases, they are told you will have freedom, just as Esther and Isaac have stated, that up there you'll have all the freedom, you will do whatever you want to do. So they have that mindset that they are going to enjoy and to do all those things. So when they reach these institutions, then they find themselves with a lot of freedom. And let's not forget that, as Esther said clearly, that the supply creates its own demand.
Right.
It's not that demand is the one that is creating supply. No. Supply creates its own demand.
Right.
Come up with a new thing and you will find the consumers for that thing. It has not been there, but come up with it, even if it is a church like the Shakahola or whatever.
Right.
So there is that kind of problem, and we shouldn't forget that these drugs are within us. Like when you talk about miraa, you have seen even our political leaders, the highest political leaders that we have in the country, going to miraa growing areas and even chewing miraa in the public, trying to entice people, to encourage young men to chew miraa, when they know very well that it's just for political expedience, but then they're destroying the generation. So there is that kind of thing, and we should never forget the political will. Political will is very important. My brother talked about, let's not blame the government, although he went ahead to show how the same government is messing. Because when we talk about the county government, we talk of the national government, we have these institutions where there is no political will, you cannot succeed. Because whatever you do is supposed to be supported by the government of the day, even if community based organizations, NGOs, and any other institution that we have, whether state or private, is to succeed. There must be political will. How are our politicians supporting us? Because they are the ones who provide protection to the wrongdoers in the society. So the society in general, we have talked about shisha. Shisha is banned in this country, but it is really being consumed. Why? Because the owners of social places, these joints that we are talking about, are influential people in the county government, in the national government, whereby when enforcement officers go to these joints to enforce the law, they are either transferred or the consequences are so bad to them. Because there was even a time when it was being done in Nairobi, closing such areas, such joints that were messing up young people. And the director in charge was actually fired. So these are the things that we are talking about. What is the political will? How is the leadership that we have helping the situation? So we cannot look aside and say that we can do much without the leadership. So the problem continues to grow because children, those are students from, let's say, up country, from humble backgrounds. When they get into universities, they're very vulnerable. They are ignorant, those that we can term as waoni wa shamba. So they are easily recruited, but they want to look like others, as somebody said.
Right.
That identity, they want to look like they are also modern. So they engage in things that they think those who are doing them are people of class. So they are very easily, and then those that are poor are also easily recruited because they need some money. So the drug barons use them to peddle whatever they have.
Right.
So these are problems that we have, and we must address these problems as the people of Kenya.
All right. All right. And just looking at even, I mean, from the comments that I'm actually getting here on our Twitter X, the hashtag MLiveNTV, you have Anthony Onyancha saying, look, legalize, wacha mchezo. You have Kolo saying, wameshika madhe, lakini kwa madhe bado tuko. At JK Kirigit saying, hata ndio natema jaba sahi naenda exam. You see, Muchemi, so I mean, even when we're having this conversation, do you think it has any impact in terms of getting to the bottom, the root of the problem, and really trying to understand where we can begin addressing this particular issue? Because it's like, you guys have these conversations, it's fine. As we'll continue with, you know, kule jaba, you know, we can just get our rolls of bang. You know, like, do you think it has any impact? Do you think all these campaigns that have been launched to ensure that we address this issue gets the message, you know, home?
The conversations we do have, the regulations we do have, authorities we do have. We don't have the political goodwill, and we lack still one more thing. We have the ineptitude of our society to responsively address the menace. And here's why I say this. To live with young people and to guide young people, you need to understand how young people live and think. For example, I'm convinced that, let me give, for example, an analogy of Mwangi. Mwangi has applied to join an institution of higher learning, but instead of joining an institution of higher learning, Mwangi will join a higher institution of learning. Because the environment they will find there is so unaccommodating to that young person. Why will I say it's so unaccommodating? Because here's a solution we have, and this is the beauty of us as KUSO. We don't lie more on the side of problematizing, we lie more on the side of bringing solutions. Can we tailor-make these advocacy campaigns? Can we make them designed by the young people, by the students, made by the students, and then we intensify? For example, at University of Nairobi, there is a mobile application app that is called Rada app. On Rada app, it was created by university students around 6-7 years ago, who came to the realization that the challenges that students face in university can be challenges that can be solved by us talking amongst ourselves. Today, it has more than 3,000 downloads according to Google Play Store, and students continue to exchange ideas. But why has it not yet hit the impact it has? Most of the campaigns that are out there, most of the campaigns that are done by NACADA, that are done by NGOs, that are done by individuals or charities or other organizations, have not created that that really important impact that we need.
And let me ask you this, even with that, just let's take it back to the university level. Do you think universities in our country have created some sort of supportive environment for those who are struggling with drug and substance abuse, alcoholism? Do we have that mechanism of giving them that support for them to be able to realize that this is an issue and you can be able to get out of it? Perhaps support, you know, organizations within the universities, you know, anonymous spaces where people can talk about their substance abuse and you know, addictions.
I believe to provide avenues for these solutions, information must be disseminated appropriately to the young people. Young people must be aware that these things are there. And with what I've gotten, with the research I've done, my assignment that I tried to do before I came here, Zainab, is at University of Nairobi, there is a wellness center which is specifically catering for young people who need somebody to guide them on certain issues. And drug and substance abuse, because it's a production of UNESCO's O3+ campaign, part of it, the biggest pillar of it, is drug and substance abuse. But here's the problem. Are young people convinced that maybe coming to seek for audience here, talking to someone about this problem that I have, is it the way to go? Are they convinced? And I will say no, because they don't know that this service is available. Are these solutions available and knowledgeable to the young people? Are young people knowledgeable about these solutions? No. And the point is, and the problem is, that the information is not appropriately or properly disseminated to them. If it was possible for us to create a forum or an arena where young people are aware what is available to us, and then I will give a very good short story with myself. My very wonderful mom who is watching me today here used to tell me when I was in high school, I'll go over for the holidays and she'll tell me, yes, I've allowed you to go to the library and do your assignment, but whatever else you do is going to shape your future. If you decide to go to the library for 3 hours and 30 minutes, go do other things with your peers that are of retrogressive contribution to your life, that is your own bulk, and know that one day it's going to come back and eat you up. But now to the rest of the parents in the Republic. These students that we see in institutions of higher learning get addicted, getting to use more, I mean, the intensity in which they use drugs is too much. And I think it's because we have maybe socially accepted the use of drugs in our community. Sometimes it's labeled or beautifully labeled in the term of dealing with stress, dealing with pressure, you know, kutoa stress. So this is bothering me. I broke up with my girlfriend. I'm having poor grades, so achanitwe. Let me tell you, Zainab, at the end of exams in university, that Friday when exams are done, Saturday nobody wakes up at 6 a.m. People wake up at around 11, 12, and it's because last night or the last 2 weeks have been hectic. So we have socially accepted the use of drugs as a means to get off stress, to cope with stress. Yeah.
To live, sort of. It's sort of like a way of life for students. It's part of like sort of a culture. It's already there. It's ingrained in them. But yes, Esther, when you look at that, I mean, when we're talking about how then do we begin having universities creating that space for students, you know, and young people to really be able to cope with this issue, what do you think needs to be done? Do we need peer support? Because look, if the only way to release this pent-up energy, rage, you know, all the stress, you know, even joy that comes with perhaps I've done this and I want to, you know, release this thing. So do you think we need to create other avenues that would be more enticing for the young people, perhaps even concerts, but really concerts that promote, you know, healthy way of life?
Yes, we do need peer support. And this age group really needs a lot of support, not only by their peers, but also by their parents, and also a lot of understanding also from the people that they are interacting every day. The use of drugs and alcohol, and especially the effects of it, brings a lot of shame and guilt, and especially to the young people who are not able to deal with those feelings. When you wake up, maybe you're supposed to go for a cut or for an exam in the morning, and you miss that because you were late at night somewhere, or you're not able to wake up in the morning. And so they start also failing with the same things that brought them to university. There is dropped grades, you have not completed the units, and you're being left with your peers, and you know what happens there. There can also be the issue of being shamed by your friends. You start feeling like a failure from a very early on, and as you're saying that they will use more to cope. And until you have met a parent or somebody else who is guiding a child, let me call them children, although they are still young adults, who their children have dropped out of the university, it becomes really a desperate thing, because this child maybe have missed marks, have missed to go to class, they are failing on their exams, and then that's where now they start getting the issues of depression and mental health, because now, you'll be told now you're in the university. deal with it. And then you don't know how to deal with it. You continue to use more and more. And when they come to us, then by the time you're going back to the university, the class you are at, you've been left behind. And it becomes now like a cycle because you have to catch up with a lot of things. And that's why I'm saying that we really need a lot of support to see how they can be supported from an early on. They are educated from a very early on that use of drugs and alcohol has a very big impact in your life. A lot of them at that time, they may start getting the issues of mental health. We are seeing very young people now with depression because they're not able to know what to do. When you go to the university, you've been told, go back home because you missed classes. When you go home, you don't want to tell your parent. So you start doing other things on the side to support yourself. They're saying they're getting to hustling and all those things. And then it becomes now an issue of a cycle that you cannot break. And it's important that, you know, we support our children because they're getting very desperate at very young age. They are looking for coping mechanisms that are not healthy. So we need to keep talking to them, supporting them. The counseling services at the university need really to bring out mentors who have lived experiences to say, yes, I came here in first year, I started using drugs and alcohol, I missed classes, and this is what happened to me. And so that people can really see that the negative influences from a very early on. We also need to see a lot of campaigns, public health campaigns. Long time in the 80s, when you're going, you would see billboards that say AIDS kills. Let's also see the government do public health campaigns on issues of drug and alcohol to say drugs and alcohol have a very negative impact to our young people. This is the future generation. We are talking about 62% who are involved in alcohol. That is the workforce that we're expecting in the next 4 years to come to work. If they're not able to finish their university education, what are we talking about? We really need to really think about the future of the young people, support them, give them chances over and over again.
And I mean, it's not an easy rut to get out of because you find yourself taking years already in addiction and then years trying to get out of that addiction. So you end up losing a lot of many years of your life, you know, in that process of being in addiction and trying to really get yourself out of that mess as well.
Exactly. It becomes also very exhausting to their guardians, to their parents, because the child is just away from the university. You may remove them from that university and try to take them to another university. Already you are seeing the cost of taking a child to the university is very high. And this child starts feeling condemned from a very early age because your friends now are laughing at you, telling you you are a failure, you're not with us anymore, you're not in our group. When you go home, your parents are very annoyed with you, rightfully so. But so you find this child now starts feeling very desperate. And they may actually be recruited by the drug users to start peddling the drugs, getting to revenge in one way or another, so that, you know, those things can happen. But what you are saying today is that they need a lot of support, and especially at home. At home, they really need a lot of support. They need a lot of understanding. They need a lot of love, so that even if you make a mistake, because it's an age of experimentation, if you make a mistake, then let's not condemn them. Let's support them. Let's guide them. Let's also be good role models as their parents and the people who are living around them.
Right.
Yeah.
Isaac, you agree we lack, and especially for those who find themselves in this situation, perhaps lack the good role modeling that we perhaps would need?
Yeah, I agree with you. And maybe I can provide a solution for how we can deal with this problem. I don't know how the public universities operate. Maybe Mushemi will be giving us a glimpse of how they operate. But I have an idea of the private universities. For instance, we have these counseling centers in almost all the universities, but most of these centers are not properly used. We need serious, intensive campaigns, programs, immediately as these students report to the universities. You start talking to them when they are freshers, that the effects of drug abuse, the problems of having engaging yourself into bad companies in the universities, and how can you go back and recruit those people who are seriously into drug abuse. How can you help them? So we need to have intensive counseling programs in the universities, one thing. Then it is a problem of everyone. When we say that we live for the lecturers or for the institutions to provide the solution, then we are losing as a nation. And I want to tell you that we are a program like this and any other campaign program about drug abuse. It is not a zero work concerning the drug abuse. There is that small percentage which will come back and come to their senses. Even the comments you are reading there, some may be joking, others may be very serious. When someone is saying ndio nimetema jaba, it can be true. When a student say that I have just finished my exams, so I want to go for some, I want to take some drugs and I want to take some alcohol, I want to go for bash. I think that is a serious misconception, because at the end of the day, if you had a D, it can never change to be an A or a B. It will still be, you can even get an E because of saying that you want to engage into drugs. So what we can do is, as a nation, everyone should be involved in guiding the young people. As young as immediately they are in primary schools. I graduated in KCA University in 2020, virtually, when we had COVID. And personally, I've come from Makueni. And even in Makueni, we have a problem of drug abuse. Immediately I graduated, I recruited some few students, few comrades from different universities. And I registered a foundation called Isaac Wambua Foundation. We have going to primary schools and secondary schools in Makueni County, public primary schools, private primary schools, and we organize with the teachers, the head teachers and all the teachers. We go for mentorship programs. Almost every Saturday, we are very busy on the ground. So if everyone can do something from where they come from, if everyone can at least do their level best from their local community, then we can end up finishing the issue of drug abuse.
All right.
Yeah.
Hopefully so, because we've certainly been on this for many years as well. And looking at some of the other comments as well before we take a break, Victor Kemboy is saying it is indeed a real disaster. Drugs is quite rampant in our schools. The parents and communities should up the game of collective responsibility in guiding and capping the menace. At Alan Kinyua saying yes, indeed, a huge problem. Kagamba John saying it should be controlled. All right, let's take a quick break here on AM Live. We're going to be back in a short while. The hashtag, as always, is AM Live NTV. At Zainab Ismail at NTV Kenya. Talk to us. We'll be back as we wind up our conversation.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Benefits of ordering with Glovo. Glovo allows you to order anything you want at the comfort and convenience of your home. Craving fried chicken or pilau or pizza? Easy and simple. Order on Glovo today. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes. With Glovo, you order anything unataka, and when you get it una celebrate because kukuchoma imefika, na wakati keki inafika ndio sherehe inaanza. Order Glovo, will deliver in minutes.
Welcome to the home of the latest gospel hit.
Amazing Bible teachings.
Great conversations.
In studio and live on location shows.
As are we crossing over? Jesus taking over.
All this under one show. And that is...
We tell you real things, he said,
that airs this and every Sunday from 11:30 to 1 p.m. only on NTV.
Bless up.
What a Sunday. Now do it okay. From Sunday to Sunday.
my main goal was to study and go back home to Kenya.
Why Kenyans in the diaspora are eager to connect with their motherland, with real estate being one of the most sought-after investment vehicles.
We have quite a number of our customers from diaspora.
Find out how Centum Real Estate is positioning itself as the go-to company for the diaspora as they tour the United Kingdom. From the US, a taste of home, as professional coffee brewer Faisal Mainge brings the art of Kenya coffee roasting to Portland.
Kenya coffee is highly sought everywhere.
It's everywhere?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And on our back home segment, tax incentives for the diaspora from Kenya Revenue Authority.
We declared this income in 2021. You got 100% waiver of interest and penalty.
This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only one round of application gives you sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You are watching AM Live and TV as we canvass around the issue of drug and substance abuse among students in universities in Kenya specifically, and looking at a report that was in, you can actually get that, your Star newspaper yesterday, which captured a bit of some of those three reports that have combined to give us an idea of really how the situation looks like on the ground. Joel Gitali, the National Chair Tobacco Control and Health Promotion from Mombasa, joining us as well. Joel, when you're looking at it, I mean, what do you think would motivate our young students, especially those in universities, right, to get out of this, abuse of drugs and substance, alcoholism? Is there a motivation for these young, people in our country? Where do you think that would lie? Does it lie with our political leaders? Does it lie with our parents, our guardians, parental responsibility? Does it lie with themselves as individuals? Or does it lie within perhaps, the institutions that they are studying under?
Yeah, thank you so much. These young people that I am with on this panel are just wonderful, because you see they have given all the answers to these questions.
Right.
And they are really focused. They can really help others. You can imagine how many of such we have, and if we use them in this community, in our country, how fruitful it will be. So the first thing, as we are saying, is that, just as Isaac said, let these young men and women be on board. Let us invest in peer counselors, in schools, and even in churches in our community. Because these are people that can influence each other very well. They can have an impact on others. They will shape them. If we can do that, so that we empower them, we give them the skills they need, we give them all the support, then we are going to have fruits. When you look at the school curriculum, you find in the past we had a subject called social education and ethics. Then we now have life skills and living values. These the content in these areas were meant actually to shape our young people. Those who came up with this curriculum were seeing what we are actually talking about. And the intention was to equip young people with the right skills and values that would enable them to fit in the society and to be a whole people. But now, we disregard these kind of things. You go to school, you'll find during that lesson, somebody's teaching mathematics, somebody's teaching English, and then the students are left just like that. They are not attended when it comes to values, when it comes to living skills. They are just there. So we must come up with a way of ensuring that we address these issues by empowering our children. When we go to universities, for example, During their politicking times, they are fighting for student leadership, and then extending to the outside. You will find that those who get involved cannot make any headway unless they belong to that class of fellows that are intoxicated, people that are involved in very funny things. Our politicians especially use this age for their campaigns, and they involve them in very bad things. So they grow up knowing that if you want to succeed, even as some people say, that very serious deals are normally cut in those social places when people are discussing over a bottle of beer, or when they are consuming shisha. It's when they are also discussing serious issues. Those who don't go to those places are not serious men and women. That thing should be removed from people's heads. So our political class, because we have had even very senior people, as I said earlier, who people look at, young people look at and admire, the heroes. Just look at those that young people admire as very serious politicians, those that are courageous and all that. You'll find most of them are drunkards. They are fellows who always do whatever they do under the influence of drugs. And they are the people who also ensure that they finance the intoxication of young people, so that these young people can do whatever they want for them. And then they get addicted, and that becomes their lifestyle. So we must try to address this. In our universities, for example, we have been going there talking to some students, and some of the tobacco companies have had some working relationships with the universities. So we go there, we have held even talks with the senior university management, and after that, we are no longer invited, or we are no longer welcome to those places. Why? Because they tell us that they need money, and if they are to get that money, then they must work in partnership with the tobacco companies. And as they do that, the tobacco companies are promoting their products in those institutions of high learning. And yet, those of us who want to get students out of this habit of addiction, dependence, are kept out. So the people that are supposed to meet the students and help them are not having proper access to them, but those who destroy them have all the access to the students. We've gone through KMTCs helping students, coming up with those peer counselors groups. And we are told that even the medical students are some of the worst abusers of drugs. Like the drugs we have talked about, those that induce sleep, so that they suffer from insomnia, they are supposed to sleep, so they use drugs so as to at least have some rest. Because of whatever they are going through, they talk of stressful kind of life, and therefore they are supposed to force themselves to have a rest by using drugs. Some use those drugs on others so as to rape them, as you have seen. The way they intoxicate somebody, a fellow becomes absent-minded, and then they do whatever they want to do with that fellow. So we must come together and say, we empower young people so that they take care of themselves. And then we also reach them and show them compassion. We come up with cessation programs in our institutions so that those who are addicted, those who have developed dependence can be assisted. They go into those rehabilitation centers in those universities and get help. We select those counselors very carefully at universities, those who can really touch the hearts of these students, not just anybody because of their academic credentials, but people who can be able to assist our learners. And even our other social institutions like churches, mosques, they should come up with programs targeting these young people so that wherever the young people go, because some of them don't have people they can call parents. The only parents they have are either their pastors or their teachers. So these people, we should all come up and say, everywhere these young people go, they must get some way of being assisted in character transformation, in character formation, and that will help us.
Right.
Thank you.
Correct. And certainly that's where the problem lies as well. Mushemi, when you look at that, then if we're creating a space where we can be able to give help to those who are struggling and really need the help, there's a conversation we had where before we took a break, even providing counseling services perhaps to the young people who need it. That isn't really a very enticing way, because someone will say, look, I don't need counseling. I mean, counseling isn't, it's looked at like something that, you know, perhaps older people are the ones who need counseling services, who need therapy. Then do you think that's a gap that we need to look at as well?
Well, Zainab, I will say this with a profound fear of sounding very malignant, that it's only a fool who does the same thing again and again expecting different results. We have counseled for too long, I believe. We have talked to young people for too long again, I believe. But where the rubber meets the road in this particular picture is, have we assessed the effectiveness of talking and counseling to young people? If the percentages keep rising, doubling, I mean, in 2020 it was 25.5%. Today it's 58%.
We must change the strategy.
We must change the strategy.
Right.
Can we assess these avenues that we seek as solutions? Is talking enough? I'm confident, no. And we have organizations and groupings and individuals who have taken up the responsibility of tailor-making advocacy for young people. Let the young people be the ones who lead this. If it is in the case of universities, let campaigns be student-led, let them be student-oriented. Let not a bunch of 50-year-olds sitting in a boardroom decide this is what we are going to do. Let a bunch of 50 young people and 2 seniors sit down in a room and design the solution to these challenges. And for example, I'll give the example with my experience at the University of Nairobi. We have activities in which we have sporting tournaments for people to have a chance to exchange on this. So we have, for example, a 5-a-side football tournament. Sometimes we look for funders, and UNESCO has been very gracious to support these campaigns. We did a tournament sometimes in March this year, and we had all the faculties, the 13 faculties that we had. You know, we have a huge student population at University of Nairobi, 50,000 students. So we try to make them come together. And while we're in those half times and where we are having the sodas and we are having maybe cookies, we have now that conversation. By the way, how about this and this and this? And then we also produce skits for the students' fraternity. And we circulate them to the students for them to access. But still, my point of view is that this is not sufficient. This is not sustainable.
So we still need more initiatives. We need more engagement.
In particular, I ostensibly want to say that we need more effective and more responsive, because we used to teach them. It was used to be taught in school that this is drug abuse.
Part of the curriculum.
Yeah, it was
right.
By then. And I want to say the architects of our curriculum at that time had seen it as a coming menace. Now today, it's a menace with us here. We cannot still take up the same approaches to solving it. We have to be more creative. The call is for more creative ways. Last year, Zainab, KUSO circulated a memo to all the parents across the country of our student population that we have noted the niche that is coming in, where the problem is coming in, especially with parental isolation. In this generation, most of us have been in boarding school. I've been in boarding school since I was in standard 6, and I went to high school in boarding. And maybe a colleague of mine or a peer of mine might not have been that close to their parent. They might not have been monitored that close with them. Still, our parents are really busy. So there is the issue of parental isolation. And I think we need to have that conversation directly. Same room, students, teachers, and these institutions that are concerned in this, so that we look at means in which we can come up with more creative solutions to the menace.
So you need parents, you need families, you need guardians who are more engaged in supporting sort of these initiatives that is already being undertaken by our institutions as well. That perhaps would be a bit more effective, but I think that's a good idea as well. And still with that, I mean, Esther, when you're looking at that, perhaps, you know, that socialization of, or that, you know, culture mentality that, counseling, because you're a counseling psychologist, isn't for me. I don't know how, if you do counsel young people, especially in universities, do they come for such services? Have you received, questions from young people in terms of how they can be able to help themselves out of this rut? And really, is that something that is an issue?
Thank you so much for that question and bringing in the issue of counseling into this conversation. And I want to state from the onset that counseling does work. And how we do it at Nueva Esperanza Counseling Center is really to look at these young people and do personalized counseling for them. We don't want to condemn them. We want really to motivate them and to encourage them. Because when they come to us, they are desperate. As I said, some of them may come even with suicidal ideations because they are feeling very desperate and hopelessness. And so the counseling that we do more is to guide them. It's more of guidance and counseling to guide them to really be accept themselves because they have been condemned from home.
Right.
They have been condemned by their families. They have been condemned by the society. When you use drugs and alcohol in this country, the first thing that you are labeled, that is you're a failure and you're a bad person. And I think that really, at that point, diminishes this person for who he is. So we really need to give them, dignify them, treat them as human beings, and really give them a lot of love and acceptance. The other thing at this age, what really is needed is a lot of mentorship, a lot of coaching, a lot of role modeling, so that really they can see there's a future that is there for them. Because by the time you're trying to paint a very big picture of somebody, as he said, have been in boarding school, has been in high school, they really need to be molded. They need to be guided. We really need to do a lot of peer modeling, give them peers that they can work with, give them a lot of guidance, give them role models that really can shape their lives. And it has to start from home. At our center, we really also work with families because at this point is where children is monkey see, monkey do. A dad cannot be saying one thing and he's doing the real opposite things.
And you're saying that you have Geoffrey Gakiri saying drugs and substance abuse are presenting problems, but we should also look at the real problems: dysfunctional families, rejection, socioeconomic breakdown, misplaced church roles, etc., etc.
Yes,
so
a lot of our children are growing up without parental guidance because of things that the parents have not brought up in themselves.
Right.
It could be, there's a lot of, these parents are not able to be together because of issues that are beyond their circumstances. But at the same time, we really need to look at that child so that they are guided from that place, because really the children are very confused. One of the things that you'll find, and especially from the ages in the university, that is where somebody starts identifying, really want to know, who am I? Who is my father? Who is my dad? Why does my father and my dad not stay together? And this thing can really bring a lot of confusion, and children trying to look for love, maybe that they are not getting from home, from other places. And yes, families have a very, very big key role to play in this space, because as I said, children now hear questions. They will question authority, they will question their parents, they will question everything that they are told, and they are truth seekers. They want to really know what is really important for them. So as I said before, there's a lot of coaching that they can be done, life coaching, recovery, mentorship, and a lot of guidance, and give them a lot of chances. I think that is the most important thing. I have seen parents bring children to the rehab and they say this rehab doesn't work, but really when you we discharge them and bring them back home, there's a lot of work to be done at home also, and we really need to do a wholesome work so that we are supporting these people, the young people especially. Addiction is a very progressive disease, so if you start to use early, you may gain tolerance when you are very young, and you start to use more and more. You start not even going to the hard liquor. You start even now, if you are using only one joint.
And hard drugs as well.
And hard drugs. Right. And so this is an age where a lot of prevention and interventions need to be done that are long-lasting, and a lot of work needs to be done. Especially also the government has a lot of work to support us, so that the environment that we discharge them to, what you were saying, the availability, the environment where they are going back to needs to be, serene, and a lot of availability is the demand reduction, again, I'll repeat, needs to be looked at.
All right.
Yeah.
And Isaac, I want to just get your final remarks here, and just finally, how do you think, with all the things as we've talked about, the issues, we've talked about what could be fueling it, but also the solutions we've had a discussion around, but hopefully just your final remarks on how we can be able to create and maintain a safe and drug-free campus environment, even for those young ones who are coming into campus.
Thank you very much. And even for my message for the young people who are joining campuses starting from this September is that don't engage yourself into drug abuse, because the consequences of drug abuse are better imagined than experienced. And the best solutions we can offer to curb this menace of drug abuse as Mushemi has said, let us have the young people leading the campaigns about the drug abuse.
Okay.
Let us not have old people who are in their late 50s talking about the issues of drug abuse, alcoholism, and the bad use of tobacco. And as Joel had stated earlier, let us not just do the counseling part itself. Let us also empower these young people.
Right.
I don't know whether it is the end times or the exact problem, because
But we've had this problem since the 80s to the 90s, which got actually really bad.
We have been
And
talking
now
about
we're
the
here.
same thing, same time, and so let us just empower these young people. We have county governments, for instance, with youth funds. Apart from, let us have the camps talking about the drug abuse, then group youths together and give them some initiatives to do, even if it is community work. Reward them, maybe handsomely, and people will be busy, engaged in some productive activities rather than going for the drugs. So that is my message, maybe to the young people who are watching us today. And the issue of drug abuse, it is also an all-inclusive thing. It is not about the lecturers or the pastors and the sheikhs in the mosque. So it is about everyone talking about the drug abuse too, mostly to the young people.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Joel, your final remarks as well?
Yeah, thank you. As I had indicated earlier, and my colleagues here have said, those of us who are a little bit older should help these young people to come up with ways of helping others and helping themselves. And that's why, like the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, this time we call it the Tobacco Control and Health Promotion Alliance, has come up with ways of working with young people. We go to, like recently we had the National Ball Games in Kakamega, we had a tent there, and we had young people from some who are in college, others who have graduated, but who we have trained, we have empowered to help others, talking to the students. So those are students who could get some time, they come to the tent and they are given some health education by their peers. And it was working so well. We also did it with music. And it's just my prayer that we can be doing such things, even the churches. They don't just think in terms of recruiting young people into choir, singing, but they empower them also so that these young people can face life and they can also go out there and influence others. Any country that wants to succeed must invest in its young people. A lot of resources are wasted by people who are elderly, as just my fellow panelists are saying, in big hotels, spending a lot of money that could have helped young people to reach others and even empowered some economically. Because if you keep talking to somebody about stopping a certain habit without empowering that person, that if I'm to stop peddling drugs, what is going to bring food on my table? And this is the only thing I know that helps me to earn a living. So we must look into such things so that we come up with workable solutions to the problem. Thank you.
All right, Joel, thank you. And in fact, you actually touched on the issue of, and you've insisted on that, on the issue of glorification of the use of drugs. And, you know, it becomes even more challenging at a time where social media is here with us. And I mean, the digital age comes with it so many positives, but also big challenges that we have to deal with that as well. Mushemi, your final thoughts as we move forward, because yes, and even on the issue of glorification, you know, when as a young person, perhaps even those in universities would look at, you know, a movie and think, okay, fine, you know, smoking this, you know, the cigars looks quite, you know, enticing, looks cool. And then there's also another big issue that is happening in our country, forgot to mention because I've seen it, someone mentioned, is vaping, and it has become rampant, even among high school students, by the way. Vaping is the new thing in town.
Well, Zainab, luxury is really enticing, and is in the eye of the human being, it is very fascinating to engage in luxury, and that is a danger that most of my peers face, that we want to be in spaces where we enjoy luxury, we live the soft life, and I think those of us who have seen where the challenge is, it is our responsibility and our obligation to look up to it. Franz Fanon once wrote that every generation must discover its mission out of relative obscurity and maybe abandon it or accomplish it. I call out to my peers, my fellow young people who are out there across the Republic of Kenya and across all of Africa. Let us take up our responsibility to cleanse the system. We have found a social structure that is really broken. We have found a system that is marred by bureaucracy, with solutions that are being put on paper but never executed. We are also faced with myriads and myriads of problems that look like they're seemingly unsolvable. But here's my word. Hang in there, be prudent, be proactive. I promise you, shughuli itajipa.
Shughuli itajipa. Na si kupiga sherehe tu.
Hapana.
Okay, sawa. Esther, your final thoughts?
I want to say that the generation that we have today that need to be supported, there's our future for tomorrow. And we really need to put a lot of investments to help them to achieve what is required in them in terms of education. We need to support them emotionally, we need to support them mentally, and we need to put a lot of resources because they have come up in the digital age. It is not their fault. It comes up with a lot of positives, but the negatives really are affecting our children. I will insist on the availability. The government needs to work really hard on demand reduction. We have a hope. We have hope in this country that these children of today, when I see these young men seated with me today, I know that tomorrow is bright. Let's not condemn them. Let's not only bring up the negative things that are happening in the society, but also bring the positives. Let's use positive peer influencers who can talk to them, who are good role models, and model them to become the men and women that are going to be the future generation of this country.
Indeed.
And treatment works. Let me also put that treatment and rehabilitation works. And we really need to put early intervention, and especially for the youth, so that they get to the negative consequences that come very early, so that they can be helped to finish their university education, so that they can be helped to take up their social and economic responsibilities very early in life.
Right.
Yeah.
And perhaps you can partner with universities as well in order to give them, resources on how they can be able to manage students as well who want that help and are seeking that help.
Yeah, we are open to guide on policy and guidelines that really speak to the young people, because some of those policies and guidelines they are not resonating to the young person because of maybe the language and how they are framed. The young people want to be given real things. Let them tell them, when you use drugs, you will not finish university. Let them talk to them now, there and today. What is going to happen to you today? A lot of the drugs, and especially alcohol, also have very negative health impacts. We are seeing very young people having issues to do with liver diseases, having mental health issues because of early engagement, and the substances that they are using, they are not very, they have not gone through KEBS, and they are very dangerous and poisonous. So let's talk to them about that, so that they can see the negative consequences very early and how it can affect them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I guess we've all agreed on one thing, which is certainly a change of strategy, because we'll continue having this conversation, but we're still using the same methods of addressing it. We will not be able to see any change, and these numbers will continue to grow. But we certainly hope that something will be done on that, as we will continue having this discussion and conversations and engaging all the stakeholders on board to see how we can be able to address this matter. Well, thank you so much. We do have Isaac Wambua, the immediate former president, private universities in Kenya. Esther Wangoi, who's a clinical services director at the Nueva Rehab and Treatment Center, who's also a counseling psychologist. Mushemi Mureithi, who's the chief of staff of the Kenya University Students Organization, as well as joining us from Mombasa, Joel Gitali, the national chair, Tobacco Control and Health Promotion Alliance. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning for this. We'll certainly hope to see you again as we probably try and track where we are a couple of months from now. But this is where we wind up on MLive. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your feedback. The hashtag, as always, is MLiveNTV, at NTV Kenya, at Zainab Ismail. Let's continue having that conversation. Winnie Lubembe is coming up shortly on Your World. Stay tuned. Have yourself a good Thursday morning and good day.